welcome to the webinar sponsored by Live, Work, Achieve, the Mississippi Partnerships for Employment for Youth with Developmental Disabilities. This is Dr. Jerry Alliston at the Institute for Disability Studies, and very excited to have a speaker with us presenting today on linking services and supports, the real story of how to navigate local, state, and national resources. We're really targeting a lot of the information today to teachers, case managers, job developers, vocational rehabilitation staff, and anyone else who works in this transition to employment. I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Rosenberg. He received his PhD from the University of Wisconsin in Behavioral Disabilities and Education Administration. He has over 30 years of teaching and administrative experience, and he's a faculty member at California State University in Los Angeles. Currently, he's been serving the role as Vocational and Training Coordinator at Whittier Union High School. They have a program called Career Connection. And I have to put in a plug, he was a teacher a year in 2009-2010. And Dr. Rosenberg, of course, brings a wealth of knowledge and experience from an administrative level, but also on the direct service line where he still does a lot of work. But he coordinates vocation and career support for all students with special education needs for 6 high schools and 2 continuation schools. And he does a lot of technical assistance for adult agency providers, supported employment, and supported living services. Now let's get to the webinar.
Okay, great. Well, I'm happy to be doing this. We did participate with the YTD project in Mississippi.
Your line is now
seeing
muted.
all those different names and cities is really exciting. As Jerry said, I am a vocational coordinator for Whittier Union High School District. I'm also the coordinator of our State Department of Education Workability Project, which starts for individuals with disabilities who have IEPs and ITPs to give them some of their first work experience. I also coordinate our district's TPP project, Transition Partnership Project, which assists and facilitates our young adults who are juniors or seniors to get into the State Department of Voc Rehab and hopefully have their job as they are ready to leave the high school district and end up with a successful closure. I'm old and gray, so I know that as a 26 for anyone on the phone who's from the State Department of Rehab. We now say successful closures. I also worked with a couple of adult agencies, and what those adult agencies do are providing supported employment and supported living in and around our community. On the front page, and I have 6 or 8 hours worth of presentation that I will compress into 45 minutes. We'll see. On the front page, you see in the middle picture my nephew Michael. He has been living with me my whole life. He has Down syndrome and autism. His mother is a single mother. He was adopted when the family rejected him. And I have obviously life stories. He will turn 25 on October 22nd. Matthew, the young man on the right, is a young man who has a hearing impairment, an intellectual disability, navigates the system, and has worked at his family's spiritual community school program as like an office assistant and overall handyman. He wants to move out on his own, dealing with Social Security, dealing with the proper rate, and what that looks like has been a challenge, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. I have huge passion in the area of person-centered planning. I really feel it is the vehicle that we really can ensure what is the individual's voice and look at what are the family's commitments to transition, navigating benefits and supports as they move on. What is really important to me is to hear the voice of the young man or woman that we're working with. I have been doing this a long time, as Jerry said, and as I navigate, one of the things that frustrates me the most is Mommy and Daddy say he wants to go to college. Mommy and Daddy say he wants to work with computers. Mommy and Daddy, what does the young man truly want to do? What is his passion or her passion, and how do we hear his or her voice? And I think what's important is who do we bring together to talk about who's at the meeting, what does that look like, where should the meeting be held, and how should we prepare? So as we say, person-centered planning ensures individual focus, family commitment to transition, and navigating benefits and supports Those are having the right people at the table at the right time. We can do person-centered planning proactively during elementary school, middle school, high school, adult services. We can do person-centered planning when there is a dilemma. Oh my God, what's going to happen when he goes to the high school district? What's going to happen when he goes to transition for 18 to 22? Is he really on a diploma track? Is he not on a diploma track? What does that look like? His mom and dad are so frustrated with him because he hasn't risen to the occasion. He's just living on his Social Security, and mom is threatening to kick him out of the house. He needs to get a job, et cetera, et cetera. So those are some of the life issues that we talk about and we address in and through the person-centered planning process. So it is a team meeting. It can be 1, 2, 3, 30, 40 people coming together to talk about an individual as we navigate and we look forward. So as I say, whose life is it? The focal person is number one. Who should be at the meeting? If the individual has his or her own voice, that's great. If he or she is a person who is nonverbal, individuals who really know what's going on the inside, how he feels, how he navigates the world, or she, what makes him or her happy. So a variety of people may help to communicate. We can use assistive technology. We can use communication boards. We can use an iPad. That's really important. Where should the meeting be held? That I bring up because if there are issues between family, adult agency, rehab, the individual's support provider, the group home, you may want to try to find the most neutral place possible so it doesn't have a lot of other energy coming with it. And how should we prepare for the meeting? I don't believe in surprises. I don't believe in manipulation, so we're all honest and upfront. Many times I do give the young adults a list of questions before the meeting so that they can have some time. I also try to get to the place wherever the meeting may be taking place 15, 20 minutes ahead of time so I can check in with the individual and see if there are any dynamics before the meeting starts that'll be important. And I'll talk about, write myself note, I'll talk about Luke and his whole family gathering a few Sundays ago and what that looked like. So I am going to use person-centered planning as the backbone to talk about how do we link to school programs, how do we link to adult school, how do we link to ROP, how do we link to Regional Center, which is our intellectual disabilities MRDD system, as we navigate. So it is an ongoing problem-solving process used to help people with disabilities plan for their future, looking to what they want to do. What are their dreams? What are their nightmares? How are we going to get to the future? It's a group of people focused on an individual and that person's vision of what they would like to do in the future. The other piece that I share at this point that I think is so important for all of us on the phone, and I would love to see your eyes and if I've got you and we're having fun or not, but I'm just going to go with the flow of a webinar. Johnny says he wants to be a rock star. Sarah says she wants to be in Hollywood. Billy says he wants to work in Game Boys, PlayStation, GameStop, etc. And Richard Rosenberg says, I want to live the rest of my life in New Zealand. And I say that personally because we've had heated debates in our own organization and in my whole school district. Be careful. Your staff, Richard, allow kids to have their dreams. And Johnny is so low functioning, Johnny will never be able to be a doctor. Sarah will never be an actress. She can't remember her lines. I never want to take dreams away. I don't want to have artificial, inflated expectations, but what I would like to do is use the process to redirect a dream to a reality, to bring in what does it take to be a basketball star, what does it take to work in a rock band, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think, and I'm spending a little time here because I think it's an important one, we don't negate the fact that some of our students are non-readers, and they need to understand being a non-reader does give certain closed doors as we navigate and we move forward. So continue to have the vision, continue to have the dream, but also bring in reality as much as possible. Teams meet to identify opportunities for the student. We're going to develop personal relationships. It's really the opportunity to find out, whoa, Sarah's really interested in this. Well, there's a graduate who left the district 2 years ago, and she's working in a print shop in Uptown Whittier. Maybe we can let her be a mentor and have an opportunity to observe that job site. Participate in the community is crucial. We all know that, and I know many of you on the phone are from rural parts of Mississippi, and that becomes a challenge of how to get to a community, what is the community, and how do we access the definition of community. Increase control over their own lives. That's the empowerment, the self-advocacy, speaking up, and really being able to articulate who they are, what they want to do in the future. One of my other areas of concern for all of us on the phone, increase control over their own life. I am a huge advocate of self-advocacy. I'm a huge advocate of self-determination, empowerment, etc. One of the other areas that I have found recently, and I would open it up to dialogue at the end of the presentation, we in the school district many times sugarcoat the disability. Oh, it's just a speech and language problem. Let's call it autism. Oh, it's just a learning disability. Let's call it an intellectual disability. I get very frustrated when I go to meetings for soon-to-be graduates of our high school district, and I say, Jill, what is your disability? And Jill looks at me and says, I don't have one, which is really great. However, Jill has Down syndrome. Jill has a learning processing problem. Jill has an intellectual disability. Jill will benefit from additional support services. So by no means do I want to magnify the disability. By no means do I want to have a person have to have a beacon that says, I'm disabled, I'm disabled. However, I find it so important for us as teachers and adults to help students get comfortable with saying, I have cerebral palsy, which means I walk a little bit different, and sometimes I may have X, Y, or Z. I want individuals to be able to say, I have Asperger's, I have autism, I may need support. And I just think it all comes along with maturity, but I have found utilizing the person-centered plan can be a great vehicle to have those role-play opportunities and dialogues to help an individual really get to that next step. Person-centered planning, the hub of it is to get to know the person. Who is the person? What are their gifts and talents? What works and what doesn't work? What are my greatest challenges? Where are places that I go that I have a good time? How is my health and well-being? How do I communicate or I don't communicate? What are my choices? How do I interact with others? People in my life and my life story, my likes and my dislikes. It's real different to come from a person-centered perspective as opposed to Johnny has an IQ of 50, therefore he will receive services from the regional center. He may or may not be eligible for the Department of Voc Rehab, but because he's at an IQ of 50, we're going to look at him only going to the work activity program on Main Street, and that's what our expectations are. And my reality is no. What is the person good at? What are their likes and desires? How do we navigate to go the next step? So from Marcia Forrest and Jack Pierpoint, who kind of helped bridge or build person-centered planning, the MAPS process, making an action plan, it's a shared commitment to help persons move toward their dreams and away from their nightmare. A person's past can be used to shape their future as they navigate and they move forward. So many times I ask young adults, what is a map? And we look at, it's a road, it's got detours, it's got ups and downs, it's got happy and sad, and, peaks and valleys. This is the map mandala that Marcia and Jack created a number of years ago. We've used it all across the country. It's a great vehicle to kind of ask the questions of where's the person coming from, what are their dreams, what are their nightmares, how do we navigate? I bring this up, and I am going to spend a couple minutes here because I've been to other parts of the United States, and people say, oh, this map stuff is really exciting, it's great. We get to know the person, we get to know their history, we get to know their dream, what do they really want to do? They want to be a star, they want to be this, they want to be that. What are their nightmares? What scares them? Who is the person? What are the gifts that that person brings to the table? What are the person's needs? And then what they say is, we stop there because that was really exciting, everyone got all jazzed and everything is good. And I get really frustrated and disappointed because that's having a meeting to have a good time and a meeting to have a meeting. What we really have to do is the plan of action. What are the next steps in the next day, week, month, or year that has to take place to build an action plan to avoid the nightmares and have the dreams come true? So I really just want to emphasize the beginning of the MAPS process is fun, it's exciting, it's engaging, but please get to the point where you have an action plan, where you've got steps, and you know what are you going to do this week, what are you going to do next month, what are you going to do in 6 months. The other piece is the planning process is real exciting, real engaging. You've got great people that come to the table. The MAPS process itself does not continue living on its own. It does take an individual, a family, a caseworker to periodically say, let's re-meet again at Christmas time. Let's meet again in February so we can see how is Patrick doing, what does that look like as we navigate, what are the peaks and valleys, and what are the next steps. So I just kind of put that out there that this is the person-centered process in the bigger picture. It's making an action plan, building to who's there. One of the other things, just as a perspective, many times I don't do the story or the history in the beginning. Instead, I go to the dream first, and then the nightmare, and then who is the person. Then I may say, can we have the history? Because sometimes when we do the history first, it gives the child, the mom, the dad, the grandmother, oh, it's been so horrible, we've had 100 surgeries, oh, he doesn't have much to do, oh, you know, the doom and gloom, as opposed to really starting with the dream and then talking about the nightmare and then bringing in reality. So as I share, that's what we look at. I bring this one up, and I know it's a vision test because it's fine reading and all of that. But this young man, we had his meeting. He's 12 years old. He's middle school, looking at what is the high school going to look like. He's got very involved families. They really want the world for him. So you can see that there are goals, dreams, and concerns, goals and dreams, work at a toy factory, make a movie. We can talk about the different people and thoughts and values, but he got involved, he got engaged. I don't know if you can see in the picture on the left, he helped me write some of the fun stuff on the board. So I do it creatively with my chicken scratch, and then one of my team members uses Publisher and puts it on an 8.5 by 11 so we can use it in the IEP, ITP, IPP, I-blank Ps. We got enough I's and Ps. So it can be a living document that can be used to navigate and go the next step. This is a very unique family in Orange County. Christopher and Daniel and Michael all have this unique physical challenge. Their physical ability to move is minimized. They were kind of participating. They have a nurse that goes with them to school, and they wanted a person-centered planning. So Linda O'Neill and I, one of my colleagues from Irvine, went together. We went to the house. You can see my handwriting on the back wall where we talked about what do Christopher and Michael really want to do. What does that look like as we navigate? And what came out of the meeting was, and just look at their expressions, they wanted time away from mom and dad. So we all brainstormed, and you think, okay, but wait, Richard, we're supposed to be talking about jobs, careers, employment, the adult life. Well, the process was the boys gave us the information through their nurses, support, and all that. They wanted to just be young guys. They wanted to be away from mom and dad for a while. Somebody on our team got very creative and knew there was Camp Recreation. It is a camp that's offered in the summer, and we knew people there. They were willing to let the guys come with their nurses and participate. It was the first time away from mom and dad. They had some of the best time of their life, water balloon fights. You can see they're covered up with the bags to protect them, but it was really cool. Now, what's really neat is one of the, and they're just having a grand old time. Christopher is in the 18 to 22 program now, and he's going to an Orange County program. He really wants to be social. So therefore, what we've done is worked with the community, worked with technology. He works at a museum, and he is the greeter. So he uses his iPad, and he pushes the button that says, "Welcome to our museum. Please take a brochure. If you have questions, don't hesitate." He also likes the idea of working with and around children, and we worked with assistive technology to the point that his iPad can read children's books to a small group of children. So it's taking this vision of, I want to be normal, I want to be away from my family a little bit, I want to be a young man or a young adult, and give him these opportunities. Now with technology, we're real excited that he can have his job at the museum and can work with individuals, children, reading stories to them. Just a totally cool guy. This is a flow chart that we created a number of years ago that kind of ties the IEP process to the transition process, ITP, that can lead to the IPP, and kind of have the person-centered planning as a hub and as a vehicle. We talk about what are the individual's dreams, what are their strengths, what are their career interests, and you may get that out of going online to any of the online career interests. You may do the Reading Free, you may do the PICS, you may do IDEA, you may do SDS, whatever you can do to find out what are the real career interests of the individual. As a little history lesson, my school district used to be a Voc-Eval center for the Department of Voc Rehab, and we had 2 rooms with all the great elaborate Voc-Eval equipment. We did fine motor dexterity, et cetera, and we finally realized that it wasn't worth the report and all the time it took. Really, most valuable is to find out the career interest of the individual as we navigate. Learning preferences, are they a visual learner, auditory learner? What does that look like? What are their personality characteristics, hurdles, and accommodations? And then tying to the ITP, what are we going to talk about in instruction? What are we going to talk about in community? And what are we going to talk about in employment? So that's one grid that you may think about. These are 5 or 6 sheets that we have also found to be very functional for the person-centered planning process of talking about history, places, participants. And I'm going to look and introduce you to my nephew, Michael. This is from a few years ago, but it gives his life story. He was born San Francisco General. He was rejected by his parents because he had Down syndrome. My sister-in-law was working in group homes in the Bay Area, and someone said, "Oh, Eileen, don't you want to be a single mother? This would be great." So Michael joined our family, and he has been wonderful, and we've had our peaks and valleys, but he did graduate from high school, not with a diploma, a certificate. He then came to transition, 18 to 22, and then in our state we kick him out, which makes me really upset because it's my own district, and he had to go to the adult service system, the adult world, at 22. He's always loved animals. He's always loved friends. That's his girlfriend for a long time, Brianne. He's always liked sports, horseback riding. If we look at, he likes swimming. This is an old picture of my wife and I, our dog. Community is really important. This was graduation. He wants to continue his education. We're not sure of what that looks like for the community college and what he's going to do. He does use assistive technology as a way to focus and communicate, but we'll keep navigating. Sports have been important, speed zone, pizza, all those life issues as we navigate and we move on. He's been very good on independent living skills, helping around the house. He does have autism, which was a challenge when it was presented to us about 9th grade, because Michael does get stuck. And he may take a while to get through a project, which makes it very difficult as we navigate. But we all assumed that he would want to work in animals and work at Petco, because he's always shown a high interest with animals, pets, etc. So we did some work experience, and he did not like working at the pet store. He did not like the smells and what that looked like. He would have much rather been able to stay working at Joann's Fabrics, which was where he ended up for a year doing a workability placement at Joann's Fabrics, which he loved. It was organized, it was clean, he liked the smells, etc., etc. So he is on Social Security. He has a ticket to work. We haven't done a lot of work with the job yet. He's in an adult service system. He does get fair share from Social Security. And I just like to read what he typed as a vehicle of saying to his IEP team, I am good because of all you excellent support for many years, and I love you all, and my mom and family and I are very thankful. Peace, joy, harmony, and love to you all now and forever. I am so awesome because of you, me, and the high spirit being a great team. Like Mom said, the beautiful spirit in us all, the higher self-good example model within us. Love, Michael. And that is how he communicates. He has a great session with his counselor once a week where they use typing as a vehicle to talk. So Michael really was proud of himself and felt good about what he did. This is his final team as we navigated, and that we want to just show it can be one or two people, or you look at the lower right-hand corner, we had about 25 people in the living room when we looked to what's going to happen after high school, how's he going to navigate. Michael does have 2 girlfriends, so they've been actively involved in his life. Please don't make any statements about him having 2 girlfriends, and we allow that to occur. But we also agree it takes a village as we navigate. Saying that and realizing that I've got more stories that I'm going to share using person-centered planning in people's lives, I think one of the things that Jerry and Karen Flippo asked was, Richard, talk about what's happening across the country, what's out there linking people together and what that looks like. Well, to me, it comes from person-centered planning. What are the dreams as we navigate and we move on? Then it's really linking into those agencies and organizations that are out there. So when we talk about communities of practice and those partnerships, what are the agencies that are there that are going to build bridges to help individuals? So it really is the Department of Education school, then it is the Department of Rehab for those with a job, then we've got the Regional Center, the Department of Developmental Services for those with intellectual disabilities. We've got to partner with the adult service providers to have the same expectations, that not everyone has to go work in the shelter workshop and be happy in the shelter workshop. There are truly individual placements. How do we navigate and we move on? Then we do have mental health issues as we navigate, Medi-Cal, Medicare, CalFresh, etc. HUD housing and Section 8 is something that should start early because individuals many times choose to move out and want to move out. And as I say that, one of the other things that's really important through the person-centered planning process is to be sensitive to cultural, ethical issues. I don't want to make stereotypes, however, there are some cultures where their little niño child will be their child forever, they will take care of them forever, it was who they wanted, et cetera, and I think it's important for us to realize we want to hear the voice of the individual. I'm not going to go into a family and say, oh, she can move out in 6 months because we'll get a Section 8 permit, we'll get supported living, we'll get the step. No, that's not what the process is all about. It is a process, and we need to look at that as options. The one-stops or American Job Centers are also a resource that's out there. Workforce investment services, social services, disability rights, paratransit. Getting around town has always been an issue up and down the state and across the country. If we don't have reliable, accessible transportation, how can we look at a job if that's not going to be consistent, reliable, etc.? Post-secondary education, I think, is exciting. It's pretty new the past 5 to 10 years, where individuals like Michael can think about going to college and having college doors open to them. We are very proud in the state of California that we have 5 community colleges that systematically, with partnerships, open the door to individuals with intellectual disabilities to come to the community college. So we really have picked that up and excited. The other piece to the puzzle are the community natural support systems. My nephew Michael is one of the most happy young men when he's with our spiritual community. When he's there on a Friday night event where it's spiritual cinema, or it's Sunday starting service at 10 o'clock and then socializing at 11. And I put that out there just because many times families are scared or embarrassed or worried about accessing those natural communities. And I have a lot of stories from across the country where spiritual communities really open the door to an individual with autism, developmental disability, an individual who has behavior problems who may make weird noises, and what that looks like. But I think it's really important that we look at all of those opportunities as we navigate. Let me share with you Carla's story. Carla is another young woman that I've supported for many, many years. This was her 16th birthday party at her house. Michelle was her teacher. We were doing the person-centered planning. You can see it. What's the history? What's the dream? Who is she? What's she good at as we navigate? And what's really cool is she was very clear she wanted a job. She said she wanted marriage, 2 daughters, a boyfriend. She wanted to call her parents, Hilda and Carl, which I thought was really powerful and impactful, that she wanted to move from mom and dad to Hilda and Carl. She wanted to have a townhouse. She wanted to go to Cal State Long Beach. She wanted to travel, et cetera, et cetera. She is a young woman with an intellectual disability. She also has a very stubborn side to her that can make her very rigid at times. But we really have watched her grow and evolve over the years. She is a young woman who moved out while she was still in her 18 to 22-year-old transition program. We did get her to be able to go to Cal State Long Beach and navigate going to college. It was very creative how we got her in there. Her peers were some of her best supporters. As a matter of fact, this is her 16th birthday celebration. The young lady on her right ended up being one of her first live-in supported living staff, which was really neat. We then moved the person-centered planning from boxes and all that to one of her roommates was very artsy, and one year we did the meeting in like a tree, and we wanted her to be part of the Tree of Life as we navigate. I said she went to Cal State Long Beach, which was really cool. She also worked at Hollywood Video for 9 years before they closed. That was really part of her passion. She always loved movies. That was always real important. We helped her, and she helped herself to create a movie club in her townhouse complex. So she moved into a townhouse. She's been living there for about 10 years. She does periodically have a few issues where she screams a little bit loud at night, and that has caused a few times the police to come, but that's being worked on. But the movie night social, she has now moved from Hollywood Video. She has created her own micro enterprise. I apologize, I don't have a slide. She has a movie dinner pop-up restaurant business. So she, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year, will either with Cal State Long Beach or with a private entity create a pop-up business, movie business, where it will be open for premieres, for music. She creates the menu. She works with different venues, Italian, a deli, etc. And she's moved from more traditional business to be her own entrepreneur, where she can have a pop-up business restaurant come to your house, which is really cool. I'm just going to quickly show that there are other person-centered planning process. This is the PATH process, where we look at the North Star. We then come back and say, what's happening now? Who are people that need to be enrolled? How are we going to build strength? How are we going to commit to the next step? How are we going to know that we're doing it? And then this is a picture of Caleb's. Caleb is a young man who I've also navigated with for a long time. He wanted friendships. He wanted a job. He wanted to participate in the arts. He also talked about who was in his life. And you will see there's a red cross here. Many times through the person-centered planning process, we can find out what are their values, what are their passion, what are they looking for, and at times we may find a stumbling block. That stumbling block may be health issues. It may be fear that mom, and the red block here was 2 pieces. One is he has diabetes, and mom was very worried about that. The other stumbling block was mom didn't believe that his siblings would step up and help as needed. So as we do the person-centered planning process, many times red crosses come, or concerns. They could be biological, physiological, or emotional. How does he fit in? What does that look like, etc. Caleb has now been living in supported living. He does go to Santa Monica Community College for a short time. He works at a couple of nonprofits and has done very well. He has a intellectual disability and a physical disability as he navigates the world. But it really was a powerful coming together of people as we navigated and we moved on. What I did before I do a few more person-centered plannings are, we're all involved in the California Promise Project, and we're kind of pulling together what are the commitments, what are the values, what are we all doing together. So the core interventions is case management. How do we follow? How do we monitor? We believe that financial planning and benefits planning is crucial, and that's why we have done as much work with Social Security as we have, and we think we are one of the Promise grants that we're going to show navigating, not having to stay on benefits is so important, how to give early career and work-based learning experiences so jobs are in the repertoire, and then we all know the value and the importance of parent training and information. As I have said on the call, listening to the voice of the individual. We don't want to not listen to the parents, but we want to make sure the child's voice is number one, because we know that parents and group home providers and adult service providers can sabotage what we're doing with an individual. So it's really important to be able to engage the parents and other providers, as we know. Other services and support, youth development. To me, youth development is also part of that self-advocacy, that empowerment, getting to know I have a disability. extend and experiential learning opportunities, employer engagement. I think all of us across the country are constantly trying to find out how can we build relationships, how can we navigate so that the employer partners are really paramount. And the next student I'm going to talk about, we did it with an uptown movie theater, and it's been a win-win situation. Health, behavior management and wellness, training and use of technology and assistive technology, and independent living activities. All real important as we navigate and we go on. The other, as I said earlier, career and work-based learning, school, volunteer, paid work, work experience, getting as many opportunities as we can, para-training, referral, coaching, family resources, other services and support, as we said, to really help empower that young adult to navigate and move on. From communities of practice and the partnerships that we have at a local level, it really is a marriage of a lot of people coming together, building that village, having that dialogue, and those are just a list of some of those partners that we work on as we navigate and we move forward. I want to talk about John for a minute, and then I'll just share a few more pictures, and I'll entertain any questions. John is a young man with autism, and John was in one of our regular high schools with support. This was his meeting his sophomore year. You see, I have a huge family and a huge group of cousins that came to the meeting. And as we talked with John, they talked about we want him to be able to be mobile, we want him to be healthy, we want him to be happy, we want him to graduate from Lucerna, we want to look at what's future as far as adult services. He talked about wanting to travel, and excuse me, we had an opportunity while John was with us. He graduated from high school without a diploma. He came to our transition program for 18 to 22. He worked in our modified Project Search, where he worked in the courthouse, and they loved him in the courthouse. He was one of the best greeters, filers. He could do more files than others. They loved him, but they had no openings. So it was like, gosh, we really have got to, put our money where our mouth is. We've got to help this kid find a job. We don't want him to leave the high school district without a job. So I will share with you that I got all of our job developers, and I have a number of projects. So there were about 12 job developers working together to help John. And the neat story was one of our staff used her connections, and a friend worked at the Whittier Village Uptown Movie Theater, and the manager was hesitant but said, let's try him for 2 hours twice a week and see how he does. Well, you see John in the middle there on the left, and he really rose to the occasion. I think he's working 3 to 4 days a week, some on the weekend. I saw his brother in town recently who goes to college, and he said it's the best thing that's ever happened to his brother. And I think that's where we really come from, that reality of making those links and allowing it to occur. He is on regular employment. There is an adult agency that does do some stop-ins, but John, family, and natural support has allowed him to do what he's done, which is really cool. Just quickly, we do have an outline of what are the steps towards employment, who do we need to contact, what do we need to do, who's going to do the next step as we navigate. So we build these steps in, looking at transportation, looking at Social Security, looking at Department of Rehab if they're going to help transportation or clothes, etc., as we navigate. This is Patrick, and I shared a little bit about Patrick in the beginning. Patrick's senior year was a real wake-up call. He had kind of skated through school with his Asperger autism, and now it was navigating, going into the adult world. Mom really wanted him to get a real job and do it. It was very challenging. And as we navigated, moving on and on, we had a couple of meetings You can see in the middle picture here, we really had to bring in everyone together because Social Security was threatening to cut him off if he didn't get a job. How do we navigate? His social skills weren't great. We're pleased to say he did get a job. He did get his Social Security benefit. He is one of our ticket participants, and he is navigating the world, which is really cool. But it was a rocky road, and you see not the happiest young man there and a small meeting with his mom. Then you see a larger team coming together to navigate and advocate as we put it out there. Tickets to Work is one of those things that we do as a high school district that I'm real proud of. It's unique, but I'm just going to leave it at that. This is Matthew. Matthew is the young man with a hearing impairment as well as an intellectual disability who has volunteered in their spiritual community, working landscape and helping with the child care and school program. But it just was a neat coming together. He then had a meeting just yesterday with Social Security Administration because they screwed up on his fair share. He is still on our active job hunting list, but we feel we know Matthew a lot better after we came together. His siblings were at the meeting at the house, and that was really neat and powerful. Alex is a sibling, a 33-year-old who is navigating life and wanted a meeting because he had seen I'd done meetings with his sister for many years, Carla, and Alex was kind of grappling with where am I at in life and what am I doing? So we came together, and it was really neat opportunity. He's on the spectrum, but it was an older brother saying, Richard, you've come to the house so many years. Will you come and do my person-centered plan meeting? And that was really intriguing and interesting as he navigates and he moves on. So everyone has the opportunity to prepare for college, career, and life success. And this is just a nice grid that kind of talks about all that. This has been our logic model with the goal of self-sufficiency, employment, and quality of life. And I know I have talked quickly, but Jerry, I told you I could do it in less than an hour. And I would love to have a dialogue.
Your line is now unmuted.
If we can unmute, and I hear the unmuting going on. And I appreciate everyone's listening as far as I could tell. And I don't see any questions or concerns in the chat box, but I believe we are all out there. One of the websites that we use is CaliforniaCareerZone.org, and it's where you've got the reality ride and you've got the reality check, and it's CaliforniaCareerZone.org, and it's CareerZone.org. It's a living website where you can do interest inventories, you can do academic assessment, you can then do budget planning, and that's the period of time when individuals come back and say, whoa, if I really want to have a new car, I need to do this. If I want to have certain nice clothes, I need to do this. So that is one vehicle. The other, as I said earlier, is using the different IDEA interest inventory. There's not a magic website that all of my staff gravitate to. We do have a shared drive that if we have a neat, we do run job clubs, so it's not like DR's job club, I don't think. It's more career awareness, career development. So we share different materials that we've gotten along those ideas of dressing for success for the interview. So I don't have specific website except for CaliforniaCareerZone.org. Thank you, Jerry. Answer the question, Richard. Cool. Other questions? Or a story they want to share, and if you're not unmuted, *6 may unmute you.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Kathy Williams with the MDRS. I just have a comment to make. Dr. Rosenberg, I was with the Youth Transition Program with the Harrison County School District, and I met you years and years ago. So good to see that the transition information that we learned through that project, you're still carrying on. And here in Harrison County, we are still using some of those techniques as we work with our transition students as well. In particular, what I like is the customized employment piece where
Yes.
you have the employment planning meetings. You call them personal center planning, customized.
Right.
But that, to me, seems to be the best way to match an individual with the best employment for him.
Thank you, Kathy, and we agree. I mean, as we did work together in Mississippi, and it made sense then, and it still makes sense. And the piece of the business is, how do we look at relationship? One of the issues is the expectation that with the employment challenging workforce, everyone's supposed to be able to do every job. So if our guys go in there and they're supposed to do customer relations and the cashiering and the go-backs and, that becomes overwhelming. And it
Right.
then gets back to relationship with those employers.
That's
And
right.
appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. I definitely set up a mentor-mentee relationship, so a new staff coming on will have one or two mentors that will help them. That's one piece. The other piece is I do have a variety of videos where they watch and show stories of individuals. I talked earlier but didn't really relate to it. Luke Spinelli, and I can give you that reference, Rich and Jerry, afterwards. Luke Spinelli is one of our guys who graduated from Whittier High School. He did a great documentary about his life as he navigates going from school to adult life and how hard it was as a young man with Down syndrome navigating it. He really wants to be an actor in the entertainment business. He's very creative. So if you go on his Luke Spinelli website, you can see what he created for high school. He has been on two episodes of Glee. He's still out there, but navigating the world has been very hard. He right now works at the YMCA, where he goes every morning for 2 hours, and then he volunteers there. So it's one person at a time. It is stories, it's mentoring, and it's one person at a time. Another one of our teachers is Sue Rubin, and Sue Rubin, you can go on her website, is a young woman with autism, and she created a documentary, A World of Her Own, that's close. Sue was a woman who we helped get into the Department of Rehab, and anyone on the call from Department of Rehab, I'm really sorry to let you know, it took us 13 years to get a successful closure with her, but it was a slow pace, it was ongoing. It took 11 years to go to Whittier College to work on her BA, but she did it. And I think what's important, Jerry, is one person at a time. Not everyone fits into the same stereotype or puzzle or box, and keep having the dreams as we move out there. And I think both Luke Spinelli and Sue Rubin are two of my best teachers that I then try to get my employees to understand what that life has been like as they navigate. And I have one question for everyone, just because I am a teacher. If I could get some feedback as the day progresses, either through Jerry or Rich, how to do this better. As a presenter, and as Kathy said, she's met me before, I love playing with my audience. I love having a good time with my students at the university. It's a lot harder if we're not Skyping and seeing each other. So any and all feedback would be gratefully welcomed, because I am periodically asked to do this. It's very hard to do, but I would like to make it better each time. So that's one question for all of you, please.